Anne Marie Hughes. And as you all know, I am a 10-year pancreatic cancer survivor. And as part of this awareness series, I thought I'd do something very different for all of you, but not terribly different for me. And that is to introduce you to my yoga teacher and guider, Stephanie DeSatnick. And Stephanie is the owner of Stone Harbor Yoga. Hi, Stephanie. How are you?
Hi, guys. Hi, Anne-Marie. I'm great. Thank you for having me on here. So I've known Anne-Marie for quite some time now. She's one of the students in our community. We have the most amazing community at the beach of all different kinds of people that show up in my studio, my practice. And people have also been through an extremely, extremely difficult life situations. And I feel like getting on your yoga mat allows you to be and breathe, and maybe for a few moments or an hour, not think about exactly the challenge at hand, but clear out the space in your brain to manage and handle the challenge at hand. And today in class, I talked to everybody I spoke to, obstacle or opportunity. And, I've owned this yoga studio now for the actual physical building for 8 years. And I opened up the yoga studio with $78. That's what I had in my bank account, $78.
And tell me a little bit about that. How did you come to decide that you were going to run a yoga studio?
So I had been teaching after I got divorced. I had been teaching yoga all over the place. I did my teacher training in Hawaii, and I met all sorts of amazing people through that training, through the different studios I had previously taught at. And I love the beach. And my mom had always said to me out through life, like, you're going to eventually live at the beach. And in this community, I felt like we needed something that would be open year round, even though it's a seasonal beach town, Stone Harbor, New Jersey. Most of you know that town. To come, to breathe, to move. But more importantly, the practice that I teach is extremely challenging physically, but it's not meant to take anyone in the community out. We have 15-year-olds to 75-year-olds doing the practice, all different body types, all different walks of life. And that's one of the things I'm the most proud of, is it's just not one specific body type. It's not one specific socioeconomic, category, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm really proud of that.
I know what I have gotten out of yoga over these years. And I started my practice with you really when you started the business that many years ago. And I was just coming out of my first surgery, basically. And so I've gotten so much out of it. As you say, when you get on your mat, you forget about everything else and you just focus really on what matters and what it is that you can do. And I think over time, what I've also learned is that I can do a lot. So I never feel like I should limit myself in your class. And it feels like accomplishment.
Yeah, I mean, that's like speaking to possibility. And we could probably speak to your practice a little bit because it's your interview, but like even, pre-COVID and everything, when you were in the studio and you would go by the door and you would grab your orange juice and you would get to work and you would still do your thing, even when you were dealing with maybe not having the best day or needing to check something or, check your health. But I think that, and it's happened a lot in the community, and getting close with everyone in the community has lended me to learn everyone's story. And everyone's story is not exactly as shiny as this beautiful town that we live in is, obviously, just like everywhere. And that's another fair point, is what I think we do in here a lot is we take the armor off. It's like, here we are, we're labelless. It's not CEO, it's not student, it's Anne-Marie, it's Stephanie, it's Holly, it's that. And I think that that's also really powerful. After starting this studio, the word resilience to me is like, it's tough because I don't want to identify with being resilient because it's always, I always feel like then there's something that in my path to be resilient for. So what I tend to think of is I'm more grounded and clear rather than resilient. So when I opened this, we were cruising along. I was building the community. Things were, great. I was blissfully unaware pretty much. And probably 4 or 5 years into the business, there was an extreme flood that trashed the entire studio. And the studio was it was ruined. It was knocked down to the studs. So we had to rebuild that. And right after that rebuilding process was when my dad got sick. And that part of my life changed me so much. I believe for the better. This is where I'm speaking opportunity rather than obstacle. My compassion came out a lot more in my life than what I was always a tough person, like push. I was always kind, but on the surface, I wasn't letting out the compassion I really had. I kept it bottled in, just like all of us, out of fear of being seen. So, but once you see somebody you love, as you all know, and going through something that literally is life or death, it definitely changes you forever.
Yeah. And I think what I've learned from you is that, not only the physical practice and everything else, but really I've learned so much just watching you be able to pick up and move on. And I'm sure every single time it was hard, but I think one thing I learn about a community and its leader in you is that we all have our stuff, and it's about how we deal with it, right? And how we get through it is really important. What's that saying that you have about?
I was just going to say it. The only way out is through.
I love that.
And I think, the other thing I would add to that is that comparative suffering is not my jam. Suffering is suffering, and we can't compare our journey or say, oh, things are so much worse for me. So things are so much worse for this person. No, holding space for all sorts and all ways of suffering,
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And so, as Stephanie knows, I collect a lot of her sayings, and then I, type them out after class if I can, still remember after I'm sitting there after class. But because she has so many wise sayings to share, wise experiences to share that I've gotten out of it. So yoga for me is not just about the physical process. It's about the entire process, right? What I'm getting from you and how you're sharing yourself and how others share themselves in the experience with us, right? So it's a very spiritual way of being, and I really treasure that kind of time, because that's not time that I allowed for myself before you.
Well, yeah, and I think that as a busy woman, you're a mom, you're obviously an accomplished businesswoman. It's carving out time and saying the word selfish. That's another thing, everybody. Like, selfish is not a bad word. So you're selfish to become selfless. So it's like often, I always think about it as plugging a phone into the wall. Like, you're like low on battery. Like, even right now, you've worked a full day, you've handled all of these things, and your battery might be on 18%. And then you go, and we call it energy upgrade in our yoga practice. And you plug into your yoga mat, you dial in, and contrary to what you would think it would make you more tired because it's so physically challenging. But no, in fact, it gives you the energy you're looking for,
No lie. If I do your practice, which is active, and I love that, it's very active. It really forces your mind and your body to work together, right? But afterwards, I should feel totally exhausted, you would think. But let me tell you, every single time, I have got all the energy in the world for the rest of the day. It's crazy. Why is that? What is it about yoga practice?
Well, I like to think about it as this. So I can't remember who spoke to this. These are not my words, but I'll use my, so this is a quote, but it's about like cleaning. So you have your lint screen in your dryer and you haven't cleaned it for a long time. And it's full of just all of this lint and it's sluggish and it's, it could create a fire, but anyway, and then you clean out the lint screen and it's fresh. So what I like to think of it is like a lint screen clean, defogging your glasses, just clearing out your lens of all like the heaviness that you're holding on to. Like, it's unbelievable. Like when people will say, like, especially this year, I'm pretty much at my like peak fitness at 45 years old, that I was as like a college athlete. People like, what are you doing differently? Are you changing your diet? Are you doing different? And I said, no, I'm just letting go of people pleasing. I'm creating healthy boundaries. I am creating non-negotiables. We speak to that a lot on our yoga mat, the things that need to get accomplished during the day, not for anyone else other than ourselves. And, I would happen to think like in the studio, everyone's speaking and communicate. Nobody knows, everybody's stripped, everybody's soaking wet with sweat. There is nothing fancy going on, but yet everyone's in tune because everyone has cleaned out their lint screen or defogged their glasses. However, that's why you feel so good when you're done, because you let go of all that stuff you're holding on to.
And, everybody's coming at the mat coming with different backgrounds, right? People from different physical abilities, different mental stuff, whatever they've got going on. I think a lot of people are intimidated when they first come into any yoga practice because they feel like they have to fit in exactly, like everybody's going to be going at the same level, doing the same movement at the same time. How can you get a beginner to not feel that way when they enter your studio?
I can't get anyone to feel a certain way, but what I can do is I could stand in my own 2 feet. And when they keep telling me how nervous they are, I could be like, just give it a shot, diffusing the nerves. And a quote, if there's a lot of beginners, it's pretty much every time a class happens, it's probably 1 or 2 new people with 30 regular people. So they feed off the energy of everyone else. And it's not, I think I've cultivated a very welcoming community for all kinds of people. But I always use this quote with new people: how to have a yoga body. Number 1, do yoga. Number 2, have a body. And I think that that's also very, because it's not just somebody that is feeling extremely out of shape. It's somebody actually, in fact, the other way, which nobody ever thinks about, that is extremely fit in another way, that has an extremely difficult time living and being with the consequence of being themselves on the mat. Like, I run a lot, I swim a lot, as Anne-Marie knows, but you guys don't know. And nothing ever feels as grounding. It's a different kind. It allows me to really clear out a lot of that lint in my head more than any of the other things I do is getting onto my yoga mat. And I really truly, and I'm sure Anne-Marie could say, like, you're in your own little world. Once you get into the rhythm of a practice, you're just doing your own thing. I will say there's people that have come to me with a lot of very difficult life stories, and ranging from, sickness, terminal illness, death of a very close person, suicide. It runs the gamut. And for me this is also something I've learned, is to hold space, but not try to fix anyone, because some things are just not fixable at that moment. So you can't just say, okay, well, if you breathe in this yoga class, you're going to be feeling just amazing tomorrow. No, that's what I was talking about false positivity. It's more about holding space, not fixing people, just loving them.
So, this audience may be more bent towards being ill, physical illness, or knowing somebody that has a physical illness, and they themselves are holding a lot of space for those individuals. How can they participate in a yoga program?
I would say as a caregiver, if you have the ability to get on a yoga mat, get on a yoga mat. As a patient that is not able to get on a yoga mat, I would suggest sitting or lying down, whatever feels okay, and simply breathing, possibly lifting your arms up in the air and bringing them back down. If you're able to stand up, like with some strength, press into your feet and reach up and then forward fold, and just repeat that a few times just to move the energy around your body. And the key is to kind of keep your vision focused on one thing. So you're constant, you're not looking all around your room. You're focusing strictly on one little space to just lift up. So if you would just raise your arms up and then fold down and then lift back up and just move really, really, really kind of slow and intentionally. I think even that with the breathing in through your nose and out through your nose, that's the breath we use in our practice, which is just ujjayi breathing. And it's just a deep inhale through your nose. And then instead of and out your mouth, you send it out your nose, like you're fogging a mirror with your nose. So to me, a lifting up on an inhale and a forward folding on your exhale would and do that maybe 10 times. I think, the energy of that would be very calming for somebody.
Yeah. And again, it's calming, it's energizing, it's invaluable. It really is. I mean, people look at me and say, "Oh, you're in such great physical shape." I am.
Which you are. Own
I
it. Uh-huh.
I mean, really, I don't need to run. For me, this is very helpful. This is my workout every week, several times a week if I can do it. And, a lot of times I'm doing it through Facebook. So Stephanie has created a situation where, during COVID, and when she couldn't take people into her studio, she brought us into her studio virtually, which I know a lot of yoga studios have done that, but she was really creative in doing that very early on. And I started right away, which was great because I'm not at the beach, all the time. I don't get the benefit of being in the studio all the time, but I got the benefit of her year round. So I was really thankful for COVID in that regard, frankly.
And
Yeah.
even now, there's several people all around the country that are just, they're fine, but they're feeling pretty good, but they have COVID. So they're in their house and they're like, okay, well, I can't do anything else. But the silver lining is I could be in my bedroom with no one around and be safe and practice yoga. Again, there's an obstacle to opportunity situation. When my physical space was closed for almost a year and a half. Yeah. And I thought after the year that my father passed away, I thought that this is going to be the year. It always is what it is, and we're always looking ahead and looking ahead. I think that I guess brings me to the point of that yoga brings you to the present moment, the here and the now. And when you said about people moving and maybe patients that are not feeling great, I remember, so my dad had, he didn't have pancreatic cancer, but he had stage 4 terminal colon cancer with metastasis to his liver. And he was very sick. And I remember going into this was pre-COVID. So in the, the oncology center of the hospital where he was, and I actually did some yoga just randomly with the people in there. And then some of the docs were doing some, it was, and it's more about the energy that's created around it. This feeling of vitality that I'm sure, people, aren't feeling at certain points. And I think it makes you feel vital in that moment. Again, it's present. So
it gives you a sense of control. I will say that I did your yoga practice right before I went in for my second surgery, where I had a full pancreatectomy and splenectomy and the whole thing. I did it the day before because, that gave me energy and grounding, as you said. And for people that are listening, this is not just, pie in the sky, made up stuff. It is real. It's very tangible. And I felt it really important to share this with you and share Steffi's energy, which she's full of, which, you know, I just really fully believe that yoga does a world of good for people, not just sick people, but everybody. Yoga is for everybody, right? Um,
Totally.
as you would say. Is there anything that you wanted to leave our audience with? I'll let you have the last word.
What I wanted to say was, if anyone on here that is going through treatment or wants something that might not be, I mean, you know, this practice is very physical, that might need a little dialed back version, they can email stoneharboryoga@gmail, and I will send them a little video of something they can do from their bed, their house, their bedroom, outside, wherever they feel comfortable doing it. So feel free to stoneharboryoga@gmail.com. And my name is Stef, and I'd be happy to send you something to get your body moving, to feel a little vitality.
Well, that's very generous of you. And, you know, who knows, maybe one of the health systems will also kind of pick you up, because if you were in there doing a hospital yoga practice, you know, I think that that's really important. I think that's a really great thing for people to be able to do when they go to the hospital and, you know, or a doctor's office, is to have that, you know, wellness part. And it's so fundamental. And again, I firmly believe that has helped me feel as good as I have this whole time. I did want to share that with everybody. And I thank you for that, Steph.
Thank you.